Hey everyone, Xyla here. Welcome back to my channel, and I have been the most excited about this video in my airplane series for a really long time because I have a surprise for you. Whoa! For those of you new around here, like really quite new around here, this is my Uncle Peter. He's a professional cedar strip canoe builder, and I started my channel in his workshop back in the pandemic in 2020. And now he's here, because what are we gonna do?
We're gonna make an upside down canoe.
And then for the sky.
Whatever.
This series was made possible by IMI and the Sloan Foundation.
So I just pulled into Valencia Lumber and Panel. Luckily, Western red cedar is more readily available and can be purchased in Los Angeles, and I don't have to drive 6 hours for wood this time. But let's go get some cedar. I love finding new wood stores. Like, I love going to a wood store for the first time. This is Solid Porter. This stuff is really expensive, so I'm trying to have less of it end up as either scrap or sawdust. I need these boards to be 14 feet tall. Xyla for scale. Look at this piece. That's like 15 feet of just pure, straight, perfect grain. And that's why it's $25 a board foot.
I went and picked through every single piece of cedar they had. Anything that had a knot was out, but I was also looking for diversity in color so that it'll look really pretty.
I got my wood. Let's see how much poorer I'm about to become.
For anyone who is here during my Sitka spruce buying adventure, while this cedar is the same length, it's also 16 feet long, it is so much lighter. So I felt comfortable putting one of those like tow hitch car extender thingamabobs on and just wrapping the wood together. Also, I'm only driving it 30 minutes home and not 6 hours home.
What we're doing here is testing on a sample piece what if we want to rip these into strips on the bandsaw or on the table saw. The table saw will give cleaner cuts, but the bandsaw will be thinner cuts, so we might get one extra strip. Do you want to make it a battle and you set up the bandsaw, I'll set up the table saw, and we'll see.
You set up the bandsaw? You gotta be kidding.
Would you like the honors?
I'll let you do this.
Cutting down this test piece on the table saw gave us 3 strips, which even with my thin curved blade, which is really annoying because to keep the 2 sides matching, the strips all need to be paired.
I think the bandsaw's the way to go. Far less waste and 2 pairs of matching strips.
Wow, we got all that out of 11/16 wide.
So now that we are armed with a plan, it's time to start ripping all that lumber down into strips. And to do this, we ripped 1-inch wide strips on the table saw, and then we'll rotate them 90 degrees and rip the 1/8 inch part down on the bandsaw. And we need to rotate to preserve that like really tight grain pattern on the faces of each strip. I've brought this up a few times on this channel, but I have a pretty severe Western red cedar sensitization allergy now after wearing an RZ mask when I built my cedar strip canoe. And those masks are not NIOSH certified despite their scammy marketing. I was young and I didn't know better, and now I can't even go over to a friend's house if they've had a cedar candle burning recently because breathing in any amount of cedar can make me sick for a couple days. So that's why you see my uncle here doing most of the work that requires standing in the cloud of sawdust while I am feeding and catching and sorting the lumber all around him. If you get nothing from this channel, please just wear a real respirator, like a real one.
All right, it is 10:30. My team and my uncle and I just went to celebrate crossing 500K subscribers, so thank you all for being here. But we didn't make it to gluing the floor on in time, so now we have to do it.
To install the floor, we lined up my sheet of 1/4 inch aircraft grade plywood up against the 2 long gussets on the bottom and drew a semicircle to be cut out of the back. And then we just needed to cut it and epoxy it in place. And the hardest part of that is making sure that there's good pressure along the center braces, like in the middle, where the clamps can't reach. And we did this just with a bunch of sandbags. A lot of weight, it's a good way to do it. And then in the morning, once that was cured, just trim routed off any overhang, sanded it smooth, and we were ready to go back to the task at hand, which is cedar stripping.
So remember when I waffled really hard on putting these gussets on because I was gonna cedar strip the whole thing and then I decided to just do it? I regret that because now we're gonna take the gussets off. It will have gussets in the form of cedar strip planking eventually, before it flies. But now I've just created this annoying problem of like, how do we take the gussets off without touching the spruce? So try number 1 is gonna be 60 grit sandpaper. I get stuck on almost all of my projects at some point or another. Tackling the same problem from every angle and coming up without a solution can be incredibly discouraging, especially when that problem is your career. My career trajectory has been odd. I graduated engineering school right into a global pandemic, and the job offer returning to my college internship I've been hoping for got rescinded right as COVID hit. Feeling lost in your career is really discouraging, but that's where today's sponsor, Triple10, comes in. Triple10 is the online tech education platform helping people change their lives and thrive in a tech-centered world. They understand that not everyone had access to tech classes growing up, so their courses are beginner-friendly and have flexible payment options. Triple10 emphasizes on flexible courses tailored to people with busy schedules, so their boot camps are compatible with office work or with parenting. Learning new things is really hard, especially in such a constantly changing world. But Triple10 is ready to help you make the first step even less risky with their money-back guarantee. You can get 100% of your money back if you don't find a job within 10 months after completing the course. Give it a chance and take a look at their career consultation and find out if a tech career would fit you. Learn a new job starting at $200 per month and click the link in my description or scan the QR code on the screen. A huge thank you to our friends over at Triple10 for sponsoring this video. Now, back to it.
I think we've got to the point where it's not going to upset. It's sufficiently flat, and if you're using thickened epoxy to glue the side on, that can probably stay there. Would you like me to do that while you go and cut?
Oh yeah.
Holes?
Man, get yourself an uncle who volunteers to sand for you. I suppose a corollary of that statement is don't teach your uncle how to use CAD or your laser cutter so that he has to sand while you get to design the shape of the turtle deck and cut it out. However, I did discover that this laser cutter actually doesn't have the power to cut through this aircraft grade 1/8 inch plywood, even though it's only an 1/8 inch. I think there's something about the glue that really needs to be blasted, and by the time it heated up and slow enough, it was just catching the piece on fire without cutting all the way through. So it did make me feel kind of good about the plywood, but it also meant that I had to cut templates and scroll saw everything instead. Scroll saw mode, what do you think?
That's good.
Thank you.
Notice absolutely no element of surprise in my body.
So while everything about this video, because I'm Cedar-Stripping an airplane, is kind of a departure from the plans, which calls for fabric, the turtle deck is probably the biggest departure, because on a traditional turtle deck, you'd need to build stringers and all this like support for the fabric to wrap around, whereas the cedar can carry its own shape, so all we have to do is basically make these ultra lightweight forms.
What we've got here is
a template we made for the very stern of the turtle deck. I use the word stern because I'm a boat builder. And we're going to recreate that with a piece of spruce and rabbit out part of it so that we've got something to stick the cedar strip to. This seems to be a pretty good size, which is going to create minimal waste.
nothing feels better than finding a piece of scrap that just fits just right. My attention is so divided right now. Watching the laser cutter, trying to make sure that this gets filmed. Need to do scroll saw, and I need to pee.
If you were to go and pee, you would be able to concentrate much better on the other multiple things.
It feels kind of weird to be narrating what Uncle Peter is doing, but he's not here in the voiceover room to do it, so he basically just cut out the shape with the bandsaw, shaped it on a belt sander and disc sander, and then he did some amount of like cutting it with Japanese saw and then chiseling that little angle in. But basically he's trying to create a right angle for the strips to meet.
Look at that!
Look at that. Totally the wrong size.
What?
So this is pretty much 2/8 of an inch too narrow.
Narrow.
It's the perfect shape.
It's the perfect shape. I see. Damn it, you did such a good job.
Yep. Guess what? I'm going to have to do it again.
I'm so sorry.
I'm not going to refilm those bits though.
Here, wait. Boom, new one. Actually, no, I'm going to move the camera so that jump cut's not going to work.
Anyway, the plywood forms like hold the turtle deck in place, but we wanted a little bit more gluing area for unsure of how much force is going to be hitting the turtle deck, and I do not want it to get ripped off in flight. So we glued these spruce strips down and then just used hand planes to match the angle of those plywood forms. And in final assembly, it'll just let the edges of the turtle deck get glued to the longerons. And since I am not ready to be actually gluing the cedar strips to the airplane yet, I just covered the whole fuselage in blue masking tape so that once the stripping is done, I can just pop it off because I will need to fiberglass the inside as well. And this end piece also needs to be removable for now, so it's got masking tape on the fuselage and on the piece and glued together. Classic. And one last thing before we called it for the night was to clamp the very first strip onto the top of the sidewalls of the fuselage, and that'll give us something kind of to work from as we start on the turtle deck tomorrow.
All right, so today is the cedar stripping day. The art of cedar stripping is not simply craftsmanship, but also color selection. Off camera, we decided that I think I want the first strip of the turtle deck to be as blonde as possible, like a red and white. And I want to emphasize the difference between the turtle deck and the sides.
Sounds good to me. I'm the colorblind one.
He is the colorblind one.
And thus begins the stripping process, starting with cutting all the strips down to length. And I always cut the two strips together so that the grain matches, because remember, they're cut from the same piece of wood, so they'll always be book matched. And then measuring and marking and cutting the angle where it meets the end stop, and then hand planing the angle into the edges of the strips so that the strips all meet nicely.
In case this July you're like, it's so cold out, we got merch! Look how cute it is. Foxlin Flight Services, and it has a little Pietenpol flying in a sunset. You've heard of McMaster Car. Now introducing McMaster Plane, also in black. And we got these shop magnets. You can stick them on your cabinets, router table, belt sander, all the tools. This is relevant because look at that. Nice.
And then I broke out some thickened epoxy to glue it to this end thingamabob. Man, I really need to figure out what to call this thing. The tail stalk? I don't know.
That's good. We'll need to clean out the squeeze out on the inside before it sets. No pressure. Yep, that is in the right place.
And then to glue each of the strips to the forms, we just used thick CA glue with a spritz of accelerator, kind of in the spirit of a stitch and glue boat. It is surprisingly strong, but also it doesn't need to be strong because it will be fiberglassed. And then rinse and repeat on the other side.
I can probably let go sooner than I am, but you know, holding it a few extra seconds never hurt.
Nope.
Ouch. Ready to go for the next one. So, this is the last one on this side.
For the record, I told him to wear gloves. I want the record to show I told him to wear gloves. But I'm Asian and I can't tell my elders what to do, so. First strip!
Yes!
Celebratory first strip smoothie. It's like whiskey plank.
The whiskey plank.
The smoothie plank. P5C, if you want to sponsor the channel, I do like to vibrate.
We're just taping this strip that we've glued to the forms down to the top side strip so that the internal line is in the right place, because it should be a slight curve, but first fitting it takes a straight line from form to form. This is putting a curve back in it and giving us a perfect internal line to build to when we resume stripping.
Mom told me not to resort to stripping in the end.
Asian mothers aren't always right.
Alright, we've selected the darkest strip that we have as the center strip. And so now what we're gonna do is basically cut every strip to meet that center strip. And that's gonna be what's the most time-consuming part of this part of the stripping process. Oh wait, I was missing your face in that. Were you making a funny face?
Funny face?
Yeah.
No, I don't do funny faces.
No funny faces?
So we can edit that out.
Nah, she's gonna zoom in on it.
What we need at this point is very precise measurement around curves. What we need to do is do it from one side, do it a certain distance, do it from the other side a certain distance, repeat, see if we get the same. Our total length is 24 3/8. Yeah.
I couldn't think of a clever geometrical way to find the midpoint of this arc. I'm sure that there is one, but also a lot of times in real life, like, they just don't pan out quite as well as you're hoping. So in this case, we just employed the measure once, measure twice, measure thrice, measure 4 times, 5 times, a billion times, and it'll still be slightly off, but it'll be close enough. We placed and marked the center strip, but decided to hold off on gluing it in place until we had to, just because it'll make clamp access easier without it in the way in the middle there. So we moved on to cutting and shaping the next few strips.
I'm impatient. Peter's patient. I'm impatient. I'm campaigning that we start stripping sides. We'll rely on tape holding this strip just on the turtle deck area, but I can be clamped over. He keeps throwing things at me.
This process is just like a cedar strip canoe. If you haven't seen my cedar strip canoe video, I also built it with my uncle and it was a whole lot of fun and you should definitely watch it. But each strip just gets a bead of glue. It gets kind of smoothed out on that strip and then the strip gets glued to the previous strip and you just slowly build up your shape from there. To optimize for time, Uncle Peter and I did like a strip on the turtle deck and a strip on the side, a strip on the turtle deck, and back and forth to like glue dry. But in the edit, that makes no sense. Trust me, I have been fighting it for hours. So I'm gonna show you the whole turtle deck first.
So we need the epoxy, and I'm gonna keep my finger on here for a little while.
Oh, okay.
And the sooner you can come back with some more epoxy.
Hey Zoe, you wanna get lunch real quick? We can just bop down the street. Yeah. Really good.
So we epoxied the center strip to the tail piece thing, and the reason we're using epoxy there is that we need some amount of gap filling because it's not a perfect fit, whereas these CA glued joints onto the skeleton frames will mostly get a very thin fillet of thickened epoxy later on, so they don't have to be quite as strong.
It's good.
Nice. Voila! Airplane. Looks ready to fly.
It's missing at least two things.
Landing gear.
No, right wing, left wing. Yeah, I think I told you. Our neighbour said I was coming out here to LA and she said, "Oh, are you going to star in a movie?" I said, well, sort of. It's probably the nearest I'll ever get.
Hey, never say never.
I just need somebody to pick up the movie rights to my book.
Exactly. Shameless book plug.
Oh yeah. Book by here.
What's it called?
It.
The book.
Oh, the book. The wolf faces backwards.
And why?
The reveal is in the book.
Oh. Brand new memoir /
Travel journal.
travel journal about paddling the Northern Forest Canoe Trail forwards and also backwards because he's crazy.
Well, when you say backwards, I wasn't going in reverse. I just did it the other way. Nobody else has been idiotic enough to try before. Or since.
Should we do the same both at once?
Yep.
Thing?
Do you have your
I do have
pencil
my
marks?
marks. Yeah.
So do I. In that case, we're ready for glue.
Glue time, glue time. Time to huff some. Wait, what? Do you know what we should do? I should run the bead of glue on both of them and then we can each spread it out and then.
Yeah, we can do that.
May the best glue spreader win.
That's cheating.
Guess who has the CA glue?
And the reason that we like sticking both of the like triangular strips up against the center strip at the same time is that it adds even pressure on both sides to the center strip. So if you like push one all the way in and then try to push the other one all the way in, they might end up a little bit more uneven. And so this lets us calibrate and see that like both strips are even, essentially. Also, I'm realizing I made it this far and forgot to mention that these strips are not bead and cove because they're only an 1/8 inch thick. So each one is fitted and hand planed at the appropriate bevel angle and also the angle to meet the center strip.
Yeah, we've got 2 strips to go in here, shaped strips, and then just a couple of little triangles to finish. And that'll be the turtle deck closed in.
The higher we get, the harder it is, because like the more oblique the angles are and the weirder it is, you can't clamp it. So each strip progressively takes us longer. Same with these ones as we get closer down to the tail.
Even though the strips are getting shorter, they take longer.
Yeah.
We did this on every single strip, working our way up. It becomes much more apparent the more oblique the angle is, but we're basically just measuring the angle. We cut it with a Japanese saw, and then we just tailor it with a hand plane. So test fit, try again, test fit, try again. And then one of the most satisfying rewards when the turtle deck is fully closed in is trimming all of the ends coming up to the cockpit and then sanding it down, and I get to just like imagine what it'll look like. And with the turtle deck fully stripped, it was time to give it a quick sanding and hop in our little time machine and go back to stripping the sidewalls.
So book match, these 2 strips have like a lot of interest and they kind of make an arrow. So we're gonna put them next to each other. But that means that I have to cut this angle together so that they remain lined up.
Don't screw up now.
All right, well now that you said it. one's already cut and ready to go.
I believe so.
This will be so fast. Time us. How long do you think this is gonna take us?
Say 3 minutes and 42 seconds.
I say 5 minutes.
Let's see who wins.
2:34:40.
Ready?
Go.
I'm calling it. What are we at?
3 minutes and 30 seconds exactly.
I win! Okay, that was not a sustainable pace.
No.
I think 5 minutes is our baseline. But that was fun. It added a little spice to what is getting a little bit monotonous. I've never sanded as I stripped before, like sanded before I finished stripping, but I'm trying to get fiberglass on before Peter leaves, and so we only have a couple days to do it, so we gotta be efficient.
All right, we got Picasso and his art here.
Some strips that go better than others. This one took time, but was amazingly satisfying when it finally fell into place. The other end, and this was the really challenging end, because it is so fine. A bit of squeeze there. Actually, this one will still work.
So we have one more strip to do, which would be the whiskey plank. I think we get to invent a new tradition for airplane planks.
Yep. Whiskey plank, and there's one on each side, therefore that's a double shot.
That's true. That's true. No, if you just drink whiskey, it's still gonna be whiskey.
Okay. And I still maintain it's a double.
But we're waiting for the glue to dry on the second to last one, of which Peter did a magnificent job. We're gonna mask off this area so that we can fiberglass the turtle deck in place, and then once it's glassed, we'll take it off, and then we can glass the sides separately. And the reason we're not blasting the whole thing all at once is because I still have to finish building the airplane.
And getting in through glass cases actually quite difficult.
But first, the whiskey plank. And honestly, I'm not making nearly as big of a deal of how well this fits as I should be. And I edited out the like 2.5 hour montage of me carefully hand planing that into shape. Wait, I should put that back in. Hang on, 1 sec. There it is. See, you gotta earn your whiskey around here. If you didn't like struggle to get that whiskey plank in, then no whiskey for you. See, now that's an earned whiskey strip.
Shots of whiskey now?
Shots of whiskey.
Uncle Peter is not used to having to film everything. I turn around and he's doing a task.
That's better. There you go. Finished. Perfect. And these two bits that were sticking out somewhere here and got glued together, these give you an indication of just how strong the side walls are going to be, even with just 1/8 inch edge glued together. They're not splitting apart.
Can you break it?
Yes, but it took force. It took force to do that.
Did it break on the glue or did it break on the grain?
It certainly pulled out.
It's
It looks like it.
bits of each.
Bits of both.
It's a whole load
good.
stronger than I thought it was going to be.
Which means that fiberglassing one side and then leaving the other side unglassed for a long time is probably not catastrophic.
No, it'll hold its shape. It'll stay in one piece.
I can't wait to weigh it. Everyone's gonna be so surprised at how light cedar is.
And it is now time to prep for fiberglass. It is really important to make sure that all of the surfaces your fiberglass is going to touch have as little dust as possible.
The camera's become sentient. Wait, can you unfold that? Yeah. Oh no.
Okay, let's run it down to the end, first of all.
This is so thin.
And it's getting blown and mighty.
I've said this before, and I will say it again, the quality of your fiberglass job a lot of times comes down to how well you handle the fiberglass while it's dry. It's all about being very delicate, especially when it's this thin. Look how smooth we're getting it while it's still dry. All of the wrinkles should be out before you touch epoxy.
A blue spreader, a blue one? A blue one? I've never used a blue one.
Are all parties ready?
Already, and totally unintelligible.
And as always, I think fiberglassing is the most satisfying part of any build that involves fiberglassing. It's just so exciting to see all of the colors finally pop. And throughout the stripping process, this is the moment I'm always looking forward to, is just seeing the epoxy seep through that fiberglass and then seep into the wood and like pull out all of the beautiful grains and colors of cedar. And the reason that this happens, for anyone new around here, essentially is that clear epoxy and fiberglass share the same refractive index. So as you infuse them together, light can pass through in a straight line, and therefore it just becomes clear. There's your fun science fact of the day. And once that coat was starting to cure, we just pulled the whole turtle deck off and moved it to the table so that we could work on the fuselage. But before that coat was fully cured, like when it's still in the green stage, it's important to give it another flood coat of epoxy, and that'll fill all of the weave and make it smooth, so that when I sand it later, I'm not sanding the fiberglass off, I'm just sanding that little bit of epoxy off. And this is also the best time to trim off all of that excess fiberglass and leave my turtle deck behind. Also, I want to point out that my Uncle Peter thought it would be really ambitious for us to just finish stripping, and he really did not think we were going to get to fiberglassing, but I was like, no, we're going to get both sides fiberglassed before you leave, and I was right. But also, this was both of our first time using 2-ounce glass. I've used 1.5 ounce for like a rocket a very, very long time ago and did not learn all that much from it. But for this, we were fighting a little bit of rippling that neither of us had encountered before, just because the glass was so thin that it was absorbing a little bit too much epoxy, and like, I think it was just floating to the surface just a tiny bit. And so the way that we got around this and like figured out how to work with it is just using as little epoxy as possible, which we were already doing, but we dialed it back like even more, and we were basically trying to lay the epoxy on as dry as possible, let that cure, and then, well, that one was green, go in with a flood coat, and that would fill the weave.
Let the record stand that I keep handing him gloves, but I can't tell my elders what to do.
It means that when I get an itch, if I've got one clean hand, I can scratch with impunity.
Ready? Yep. It's 2 people as ceremonious. It's only 2 pounds and 10 ounces for the record. Together.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Wow.
Look at that. Now that's a canoe, not an airplane. Nice work. It looks so cool. It looks so good. What do you think?
It's not bad. I can take it or leave it, you know.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, you need the wings.
I guess it should be, but really it's. Wow! Tragically, my Uncle Peter had to go home, so the rest of this is on me. Check out our new merch drop. I'm really excited about it. And be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I've just ordered the jet engine, so we'll be installing that in the next video. We're gonna break the sound barrier in this thing for sure.